Time having arrived, I call the meeting of the City Council for Monday, March 11 to order. If you could just please rise and salute our beautiful flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, councilors and the folks in the audience, welcome to our first City Council meeting of March. Mr. Clerk, item number 1, please. Oh, you want to do it beforehand? Councilor Castro.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you all to rise and we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. A longtime employee of the City of Brockton, Lawrence Jazuski, died last Wednesday. He was 70 years old. He was a lifelong Brockton resident and the son of lifelong Brockton residents. He spent 40 years working for the City of Brockton in the Elections Commission. And after he retired, he went on to the Elections Board as a commissioner. I spoke to his former employer, the former Director of Elections, John McGarry, today, and he said Larry was a kind, organized man. He was a credit to the Elections Department. He loved the City of Brockton. I met him the night that we appointed him to the Elections Commission. He was thrilled to be doing this. May he rest in peace. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you.
May he rest in peace. Apologies, Council. I thought you just said you needed a moment of privilege. I thought it was to the end of the meeting. Mr. Clerk, item 1, please.
Item 1, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the February 26, 2024 City Council meeting.
That will be accepted and placed on file.
We have the appointment of Ms. Chris Lane Bonney of Brockton, Mass. to serve on the Elections Commission for a 4-year term ending February 2028.
We will refer that to the Committee on Finance.
We have the report of the Finance Committee for its meeting of February 20th, 2024.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have the report of the Finance Committee for its meeting of March 4th, 2024.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the Mayor notifying the City Council that Mr. Paul Studensky of Brockton, Mass. has resigned from the License Commission effective February 27th, 2024.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the Mayor notifying the City Council that Ms. Laura Beichler of Brockton, Mass. has resigned from the Conservation Commission effective March 22, 2024.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Mayor appointing Ms. Chris Lane Bonney of Brockton, Mass. to serve on the Elections Commission for a 4-year term ending February 2028. Ms. Bonney currently serves on the Elections Commission as a temporary member and seeks to be reinstated as a permanent member.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Superintendent of Parks requesting the acceptance and expenditure of the state appropriation received through Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in the amount of $50,000. These improvements to the Brockton Baseball Complex will include field and dugout upgrades. There is no required match for this appropriation.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
That too will be accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the Mayor in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending that the City Council authorize the increase of the refuse fees from $70 per quarter to $100 per quarter. The increase in the quarterly collection fee will allow for a positive impact on the retained earnings of the enterprise fund and will assist in the prevention of a financial deficit.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Mayor in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending the City Council authorize the adoption of Chapter 60, Section 3F, relative to voluntary donations to the city's Veterans Fund.
That will be accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
That too will be accepted and placed on file.
Unfinished business, we have the reappointment of Ms. Carol Delory of Brockton, Mass. to the Council on Aging as a member for a 3-year term ending January 2027. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question comes to us in a form of confirmation by a roll call. Mr. Clerk, please call the order.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is confirmed. 16.
We have the reappointment of Mr. Clayton Reichenberg of Brockton, Mass. to the Council on Aging as a member for a 3-year term ending January 2027. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on confirmation by a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak.
Yes.
Drayencourt.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
The order is confirmed.
We have the appointment of Ann Callahan of Brockton, Mass. to serve on the Beautification Committee for a 1-year term ending January 2025. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
And the question comes to us for confirmation by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak.
Yes.
Drayencourt.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Yes.
Griffin. Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is confirmed. 18.
Ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $750,000 from Fire Department Education Incentive, $500,000. Fire Department Holiday Premium, $150,000. Fire Department Vacation Buyback, $100,000. To Fire Department Regular Overtime, $750,000. In order to maintain all companies through the remainder of the fiscal year 2024. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak.
Yes.
Drayencourt.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted. 19, sir.
Ordered in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending that the City Council, approve the expenditure of $21,106 from Human Resources Unemployment Insurance in order to pay for a fiscal year 23 unemployment invoice. The Human Resources Department will need to take the funds out of their fiscal year 24 budget. From Human Resources Unemployment Insurance, $21,106. To Commonwealth of Massachusetts, $21,106, Department of Unemployment Assistance. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
And the question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak.
Yes.
Drayencourt.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Appropriation of $745,842.88 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, $745,842.88, to the City of Brockton, $745,842.88. Fiscal year 2024 Senator Charles E. Shannon Community Safety Initiative Grant. These funds will provide wraparound services and gang prevention for Brockton youth through services such as camperships, youth employment, and the Brockton Police Department's Junior Cadet and Youth Academy programs. There is a 25% match of in-kind services. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak.
Yes.
Drayencourt.
Yes.
Farwell.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Lally.
Yes.
Nicastro.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Tavares.
Yes.
Texera.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
21, ordered that pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 14, and the City of Brockton's Ordinance 2-157, the City of Brockton hereby accepts the lease agreement entered into with Brockton Commons Associates 2, LLC, for approximately 5,122 square feet of certain real property located at 55 VFW Parkway, Brockton, Mass. 02571. Said lease agreement shall run for a 3-year term beginning November 1st, 2023, and ending October 31st, 2026, with 10 consecutive 1-year options to extend. The mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said lease agreement. In City Council, February 12th, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question comes to us in the form of adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Item 22, resolve to invite Mr. Thomas Tebow, Executive Director, and Attorney Thomas Plouffe, Division Director of Housing Administration of the Brockton Housing Authority, to appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to discuss the rehabilitation of the Campello high-rise buildings located on South Main Street, including without limitation, project design, costs, financing, and such other related issues as appropriate. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk?
Yeah, we can do hand
Yeah.
vote.
Oh, sorry, apologies. The question is on adoption by a hand vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The order is adopted.
Item 23, resolve, whereas in 2023, the city created an Inspectional Services Department, ISD, to bring greater attention to and enforcement of local and state code requirements. Now therefore be it resolved that Assistant Building Commissioner William Forte and Code Enforcement Director George DePina be invited to a meeting of the council to provide a report and update on the progress and success of the program, as well as any recommendations for improvements in city code enforcement. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a hand vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The order is adopted.
24, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $76,181. The funds will be used for the purchase of departmental equipment from the United States Department of Justice, $76,181, to the Brockton Police Department, $76,181. The funds will be used for the purchase of departmental equipment. In City Council, February 26, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable as amended.
The question is on adoption as amended by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Castro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
25, order that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $2,500 from City Council part-time salaries, $2,500, to City Council personal services overtime, $2,500, in order to cover unanticipated expenses for the remainder of the fiscal year. In City Council, February 26, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question comes to us in a form of adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk?
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Item 26, ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $5,200 from City Clerk temporary seasonal, $1,200. City Clerk out of grade, $4,000. To City Clerk personal services overtime, $5,200, in order to cover unanticipated expenses for the remainder of the fiscal year. In City Council, February 26, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nicastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Transfer of $450,000 from Stormwater Certified Retained Earnings, $450,000, to Stormwater Personal Services Non-Overtime, $226,251. Stormwater purchase of service, $223,434. Stormwater goods and supplies, $315, in order to cover unanticipated expenses for the remainder of the fiscal year. In City Council, February 26, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nacastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Number 28, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $30,447.62 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fire Services, $30,447.62, to the Fire Department, $30,447.62. This is a non-matching grant with no cost to the city. The funds will be used for the purchase of 4 sets of gear for the newest recruits and partially cover the cost of a secondary set of gear for the 16 recruits hired last year. In City Council, February 26, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable as amended.
The question is on adoption as amended by a roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak?
Yes.
Durancourt?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Nacastro?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tavares?
Yes.
Texera?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Number 29, resolve, whereas the City Council has responsibility for approving annual appropriations for the operations of city departments as submitted by the mayor, and whereas the appropriations for the Brockton Public Schools are the largest amounts to be reviewed, and whereas for the current fiscal year 2024, the following amounts were approved: net school spending, $219,868,010. Non-net school spending, $11,245,147, or more than $230 million. And whereas it is critically important that the city provides sufficient funding for classroom teachers, educational programs, and related services for students at all grade levels. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the mayor and chief financial officer be invited to a meeting of the council to discuss the feasibility of an independent, objective review of the entire administrative structure of the Brockton Public Schools. Provided further, if funding is approved for this study, the data generated would provide the city council with valuable information when annual budget reviews for school appropriations are conducted in June 2024. In City Council, January 8th, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question comes to us for adoption by a hand vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The order is adopted.
Item number 30, resolve. Be it resolved to have City Solicitor Megan Bridges or her designee appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to give an update on the status of the City of Brockton's audit/investigation of the Brockton School Department's overspending of their fiscal year 23 budget, and any information concerning any other fiscal years that may include pertinent information. In City Council, February 12, 2024, read and referred to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
The question is on adoption by a hand vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? The order is adopted. 31.
Ordinances, number 31. Ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton to adopt a new ordinance of the City of Brockton as follows. Any board or commission that requires an independent outside consultant review for any project submitted by an applicant in which the payment of the fee for those consulting services are paid for by the applicant, the board or commission must solicit qualified consultants and maintain a list of those consultants who shall provide evidence of their qualifications and fee schedules. In any project that requires a consultant review, the board or commission shall provide a copy of the application or make it available online to no less than 3 approved consultants requesting a scope of services for the particular project, anticipated timing of completion, and requiring a fee schedule be submitted to the Board or Commission within 10 business days. 3, the Board or Commission shall provide the proposed scope of services and proposed fee schedule to the applicant, who may, in its sole discretion, select one of the consultants to perform the required review services. 4, the Board or Commission shall direct that all independent reviewers be required to consult with the applicant and the applicant's consultants during the performance of their review in order to streamline and expedite the review process and to make it more cost-effective.
This will be referred to the Committee on Ordinance.
Item 32.
President. Council Fowler.
Mr. President, during the day today, I spoke with our legislative council. Items 32 and 33 are very lengthy ordinances which I filed, and I would like to move that the legislative council provide us with a summary of these ordinances. They are printed on the city's website, they're printed on our agenda, but I'd like them to be entered into the record as read, subject to the summary by legislative council. So that's a motion.
Form of a motion?
Yes.
Second.
A motion has been properly made and second. All those in favor? All those opposed? It carries. Madam Clerk.
Item number 32, this ordinance creates a new position in the Auditor's Department for an Assistant City Auditor for School Finance to supervise, conduct, and coordinate audit assignments relative to school finance. The position shall be for a period of 3 years, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the City Council. The ordinance spells out qualifications and duties for the position as stated in the agenda. Item number 33, the ordinance creates a new position in the Finance Department for an Assistant Chief Financial Officer for School Finance to assist in policies and procedures affecting the school department budget, procurement, and to monitor the performance of the school department budget. The position shall be for a period of 3 years, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the City Council. The ordinance spells out qualifications and duties for the position as stated in the agenda.
Both 32 and 33 will be referred to the Committee on Ordinance. 34.
Item 34, ordinance, an ordinance amending Article 3, Division 2, Section 2-127, pay plan, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Brockton. Article 3, Section 2-127 is hereby amended by inserting Assistant Auditor for School Finance to the categories of pay plan positions with the initial use of F4SD to designate the position, and by inserting Assistant Chief Financial Officer for School Finance Procurement with the initial use of F-1S to designate the position. Be it further amended that the pay plan reflects the following for compensation: F4SD, Assistant Auditor for School Finance, $106,917 through a fourth step of $116,831. F-1S, Assistant Chief Financial Officer for School Finance Procurement, $137,465 to a top fourth step of $150,179.
This will be referred to the Committee on Ordinance.
Item 35, order that the following petition be approved and submitted to the Great General Court for approval under Clause 1 of Section 8 of Article 2 as amended of the amendments to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and to the end that legislation be adopted precisely as follows, except for clerical or editorial changes of form only. An act relative to the election of the mayor, city council, and school committee in the city of Brockton, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives and General Court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1. Every mayor, city councilor, and school committee member who is elected to represent an individual ward or at large, as the case may be, shall have been an inhabitant of a place within the ward, or for the positions of mayor or councilor at large, shall have been an inhabitant of a place within the city of Brockton for which he is chosen for election for at least 1 year immediately preceding his election, and shall cease to represent such ward or city for the positions of mayor or councilor at large when he shall cease to be an inhabitant thereof. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon its passage.
This will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Item 36, ordered, whereas Chapter 324 of the Acts of 1990 was specifically enacted by the legislature relative to the finances of the city of Brockton, and whereas Chapter 324 of the Acts of 1990 provides in part the city council by majority vote may request such assessment, analysis, or other financial information without otherwise limiting its authority to request such at any time it receives formal or informal notice of an expenditure which is or may be in excess of an appropriation. 2, a condition where an allotment is or may be exceeded. Therefore, be it ordered, A, the City Council affirms that provisions of Chapter 324 of the Acts of 1990 apply to the city and its departments, including the school department. B, pursuant to Section 5-D of the Act, the Chief Financial Officer be invited to a meeting of the Council in March 2024 to provide a detailed report on the current fiscal year 2024 expenditures and remaining balances and accounts for all city departments. C, pursuant to Section 7 of the Act, All city departments shall immediately comply with the provisions requiring periodic reports on the allotments provided to departments for their operation as enumerated in the following language from the Act. The amounts to be expended by such departments or unit for such purposes during each of the 5 following allotment periods: July 1st through September 30th, October 1st through December 31st, January 1st through the last day of February, March 1st through April 30th, and May 1st through June 30th. D, notwithstanding the provisions of Section C above, the Chief Financial Officer shall provide a monthly report of all allotments provided for the operation of the public schools and the remaining balances in all accounts, including funds received through grants. E, reports generated pursuant to Section 7 of the Act shall be filed with the city clerk for dissemination to the members of the council. F, the provisions of Section 7 relative to the joint responsibility of the city auditor and the chief financial officer shall be followed, as contained in the following provision of the Act. Whenever the chief financial officer or the city auditor determines that any department, board, commission, agency, or other unit of city government, including the school department, will exhaust or has exhausted its time period allotment, and any amounts unexpended in previous periods before the end of such time period, he shall give notice in writing to such effect to the department head or officer in charge thereof, the mayor, the city solicitor, the chief financial officer, or the city auditor as appropriate, and to the city clerk, who shall forthwith transmit the same to the city council and finance control board if such board remains in existence at the time. Upon such a determination and notice thereof, the chief financial officer shall provide the foregoing officials additional reports on at least a monthly basis indicating the status of each such account. G, this order shall remain in full force and effect until amended or rescinded by vote of the city council.
This will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Item 37, order that the City Council votes to adopt and accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 32A, relative to publication of ordinances. Adoption of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 32A will allow for publication of ordinances by the City Council in a municipal bulletin or printed pamphlet, except for zoning ordinances or amendment thereto, which will require a summary published at least 2 times in a newspaper of general circulation of the city.
Refer to the Committee on Finance.
Item 38, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $50,000 from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to the Parks and Recreation Department.
Refer to the Committee on Finance.
Item 39, ordered that the City Council approves the increase of the refuse fees from $70 per quarter to $100 per quarter in order to prevent financial deficit for the refuse enterprise, as well as positively impact retained earnings for the enterprise fund.
Refer to the Committee on Finance.
Number 40, ordered that the City Council votes to adopt and accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3F, relative to voluntary donations to the city's veterans funds. Adoption of Mass General Law, Chapter 60-3F, will allow for the city to designate a place on its municipal property tax bills or motor vehicle excise bills, or mail with such bills a separate form whereby taxpayers of the city may voluntarily check off, donate, and pledge an amount of money above the amount due on their tax motor vehicle excise bill to contribute to the city's Veterans Assistance Funds. The Veterans Assistance Funds shall be under the supervision of the city's Veteran Services Department.
Refer to the Committee on Finance.
Resolve, whereas the recruitment of professional, competent candidates for appointment to the police department is of critical importance for the public safety of the city. Now therefore be it resolved, Police Chief Brenda Perez and other appropriate staff be invited to a meeting of the City Council to discuss issues relating to the recruitment and retention of police candidates.
Refer to the Committee on Finance.
Number 42, resolve, whereas the traffic pattern for Warren Avenue between Spring Street and Belmont Avenue will eventually, Belmont Street, will eventually be modified as part of the new public safety campus at Warren Avenue and West Elm Streets. Now therefore be it resolved, DPW Commissioner Patrick Hill be invited to a meeting of the council to discuss the details and work necessary to accomplish the project objectives.
Refer to the Committee on Finance. Councilors, do we have any
Have a late file
files?
with the approval of the clerk.
Council
the clerk.
Council.
I make a motion to accept a late file.
Second.
A motion has been properly made in second to accept the late file by Councilor Castro, and then we'll go to Councilor Griffith. Mr. Clerk.
Whereas on March 8, 2024, Brockton Public Schools, BPS, released to the public the findings of a third-party audit of the district dated February 2024, which was commissioned by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE. And whereas said findings disclosed in part deficiencies in the BPS fiscal year 23 budget, and that the district spent in excess of its fiscal year 23 budgeted amount. And whereas said findings also disclosed, in part, expected deficiencies in the BPS fiscal year 24 budget and projected deficiencies in the BPS fiscal year 25 budget. Now therefore be it resolved to invite Acting Superintendent Dr. James Cobbs to appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to discuss his concern and planned actions to address said deficiencies in light of his March 8, 2024 comments. What this report makes clear is that while there are numerous significant and growing costs associated with providing students with a holistic education, we have not done a good enough job to plan for and mitigate those costs, nor have we taken care to adhere to budgeting best practices, Acting Superintendent Cobb stated. We owe it to the Brockton community to do better, and we are steadfast in our commitment to work with our city and state partners to ensure that our budget and spending processes are rebuilt from the ground up in a way that's sustainable and, most importantly, keeps us moving toward our goal of providing Brockton students with the best possible education.
Refer to the Committee on Finance. Councilor Griffin?
Motion for its late file in the hands of the clerk.
I have a motion for a late file in the hands of the clerk.
Second.
Motion has been properly made in second. All those in position of accepting a late file? All those against? Mr. Clerk.
We have a communication from the Chairman of Assessors informing the City Council that a review of the current balance of the overlay account. The Board of Assessors voted at the March 7th meeting and declared an overlay surplus of $1,200,000. These funds may be used for any lawful purpose before the end of the current fiscal year 2024. Excuse me. At this time, the Board of Assessors has determined the remaining balance in the overlay account is sufficient to cover potential abatements, exemptions, and uncollectible taxes for fiscal year 2024.
The communication will be accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the Mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the CFO relative to the same.
That too will be accepted and placed on file.
And we have an ordered that the following named sum be and the same is hereby transferred as the same was submitted by the Mayor as follows. Transfer of $1,250,000 from overlay surplus $1,200,000 from Police Department full-time salaries, non-overtime $50,000 to the Law Department court judgments $1,250,000. This transfer will be to fund a court settlement for a recently settled lawsuit.
That will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Councilors? Madam Councilor from
Well, I'm
Ward 4.
moving fast tonight, but I'm not sure, did we vote on my late filed resolve?
Yes.
Did we vote it?
Which one?
The late file that I put in the resolve?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you would like to make a motion to act on it this evening?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we just vote to accept it, because we did the motion in the second, but I don't think we voted.
We did.
You did vote.
We did vote? Okay, then
Been referred to.
okay, that's fine.
It was referred to a committee where it belongs.
Thank you.
What about the ordinance, the refuse ordinance? Is this not being read in?
We're still going to talk. It's been referred to finance as an order. We need to talk with the law department on it.
Anything else? Councilor Falwell.
Yeah, just with respect to item 39, the refuse order, I'd like to correct some misinformation that was in the local newspaper, that somehow when we collect refuse fees, it has a general use for example, school funds. That is not true. When we collect refuse fees, they go into an enterprise account and they fund the fees that are associated with picking up refuse. Number two, months ago, Councilor Lally and I met with Mr. Claxon, the mayor, DPW commissioner, and we indicated that we thought that much more study would be needed before we impose $120 more on our residents for the pickup of refuse. I can make a tough vote. I can recognize finances in the city and what's needed in order to fund a contract, but I do think we need to see the new contract, Will this be a one-time and done fee, whatever it may be, or are we going to have to periodically raise fees throughout the duration of that contract? There are many unanswered questions, and I know to some people $120 might not seem like much, but when people are paying more for taxes, more for food, more for car insurance, more for a whole host of other things, it all adds up, and I don't want to force people out of their homes. We have people in this city that live paycheck to paycheck, and I think before we raise any fees, we need to know where we are, we need to have all the facts on the table, and we need to proceed very cautiously. So I hope other councilors will join me in that endeavor. I will ask for a copy of the old contract and the new contract to try to find out exactly where we are and what's going to be required. We do have to pick up the refuse, but I'm not ready to proceed quickly and raise fees before I know exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Falwell. Anyone else? Having no further business for the people of Brockton, this meeting is adjourned.